My credit score exploded the same week I found out my own aunt had been signing my name on loans. I wish that was an exaggeration. My name is Lauren Parker. I'm 34. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I've spent my entire adult life doing everything right. I'm the first in my family to graduate college. I've never missed a student loan payment. I pay my credit card in full every month. And I'm the kind of person who reads every line of a contract before I sign. And yet, somehow, I woke up one Tuesday morning and discovered that on paper, I looked like a reckless gambler who had maxed out every card in sight. This is the story of how my own aunt used my name and social security number to borrow money, and how my entire family tried to guilt me into quietly paying it all back because I'm the educated one. It's also the story of how I chose myself, filed for fraud, got the debt wiped from my record, and let my aunt finally face the consequences she'd been outrunning for years. The day my credit died. The day it all blew up started like any other grown-up Tuesday. I was standing in the kitchen of my little rented apartment, waiting for my coffee to finish brewing, half listening to a podcast about meal prep, and half watching my cat, Biscuit, try to climb into the grocery bag I'd left on the counter. My phone buzzed, and I glanced down expecting another work email. Instead, it was a notification from Credit Karma. Urgent. Your credit score has decreased significantly. Tap to view changes. I frowned. I'm that annoying friend who preaches about credit utilization and keeps her credit score in the very good to excellent range, like it's a personality trait. I checked it the week before, and everything was fine. I tapped. My stomach dropped so fast, I had to put the coffee mug down before I dropped that too. My score had plummeted almost 200 points. I scrolled down, heart pounding. There were red exclamation marks everywhere. New personal loan, $18,500, 90 days past due. New credit card, $6,200 balance, 60 days past due. New retail card, $1,900 balance. Over limit, all of them opened in the last 12 months. All of them showing my name. All of them showing past due in bold red letters like they were screaming at me. Absolutely not, I whispered to nobody. I backed out and opened the Experian app, then TransUnion. Same thing. Accounts I'd never seen. Balances I'd never run up. Late payments I hadn't made. And there, at the top of the page, was my full name spelled correctly. And my social security number, partially masked, but matching the last 4 digits I knew by heart. Biscuit meowed, irritated that I wasn't petting him. The coffee machine beeped. Somewhere down the hall, my neighbor's toddler started crying. My entire world, which had felt so stable 5 minutes ago, suddenly felt like it was built on quicksand. 2. The responsible one of the family. To understand why what happened next hurt so badly, you need to know a little about my family. I grew up in a working-class neighborhood outside Dayton. My dad drove trucks. My mom worked the front desk at a dentist's office, and money was always tight. Our washing machine was older than I was. Most of my clothes came from Goodwill or clearance racks. There were a lot of nights where dinner was hamburger helper without the hamburger. My dad's younger sister, my Aunt Denise, was the fun one. She had the loud laugh, the big earrings, the always somehow new car, even when she supposedly had no money. She'd show up with pizza on Fridays when my parents were fighting about bills. When I was a kid and didn't know better, I adored her. She was the first adult who ever told me I was smart. "You're our ticket," she used to say, ruffling my hair while we sat at my grandma's kitchen table. "You get that scholarship, you move out, you get a real job. You'll buy us all a beach house one day." Everyone in my family said it like a joke, but there was an edge of seriousness that hardened as I got older. Good grades weren't just for me. They were for all of us. My success was supposed to be the thing that lifted the whole family. So I did the thing. I became the good girl. straight A's, AP classes, scholarships, part-time jobs. Student loans in my own name, filled out with my mom sighing that it was so much paperwork, and my aunt hovering nearby with her long red nails and her fake cheerful voice. "Sign here, baby," she'd say. "You're gonna thank yourself later." I went to Ohio State, then landed a decent job in HR at a mid-sized healthcare company in Columbus. Nothing glamorous, but it came with benefits, a 401k, health insurance, and a salary that meant I wasn't choosing between groceries and gas. In my family, that made me rich. "You're the one with the degree," my mom would say every holiday. "You know about all this stuff." This stuff being taxes, healthcare, leases, credit cards, and anything else that involved grown-up paperwork. When my cousins needed help filling out FAFSA, they called me. When my grandma got a confusing medical bill, they sent it to me. When my uncle didn't understand his 401k options, he dragged me into it while we were eating mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving. I didn't mind at first. It felt good to be helpful. It felt like proof that all my hard work meant something. But over time, it shifted. It wasn't, "Can you help me?" anymore. It was, "You'll figure it out. You're the smart one." It wasn't, "Thank you so much." It was, "Well, you don't get it. Your life is easy now." And somewhere along the way, without my consent, I stopped being Lauren, a person with her own bills and dreams and stress. I became a walking, talking safety net, a net they hadn't asked if I wanted to be. 3. Connecting the dots. That Tuesday, I called in late to work and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, my credit reports, and a notebook. I'm an HR generalist. I live in spreadsheets and policies and documentation. So I did what I always do when the world feels like chaos. I made a list. I wrote down every account that was actually mine. My student loans, my one credit card, my car loan, my old store card I hadn't used in years, all on auto pay, all current. Then I wrote down everything that wasn't mine, line by ugly line. Capital Way personal loan, $1,800. Opened 11 months ago. Status, 90 days past due. Riverline credit card. Limit, $7,000. Balance, $6,200. Status, 60 days past due. ShopSmart retail card. Limit, $2,000. Balance, bulk $900. Status, over limit. I clicked into the details, my heart hammered in my chest. Mailing address, my parents' house in Dayton. Email, not mine. A weird Gmail address that still used my first initial and last name. Phone number, not mine, but the area code was local. Employer listed on the loan application, the diner where my aunt worked part-time. I stared at the screen, the puzzle pieces sliding into place with a sickening click. My Aunt Denise had been there the day I filled out my first student loan paperwork. She'd been the one who helped my mom organize my birth certificate and social security card and put them somewhere safe afterward. She was also the only person in my family who ever talked about credit scores like they were a game. "You just move things around," she'd say at Christmas, waving a wine glass. "They raise your limit, you use it, they raise it again. It's just numbers." I scrolled further and found the co-applicant section on the personal loan. There was none. It was just me, my name, my social security number, my date of birth, and my aunt's contact info pretending to be mine. I grabbed my phone and dialed my mom, IV. The first call. My mom answered on the second ring, sounding like she always does, busy, a little annoyed, like the world is one long interruption. "Hey, honey, I'm at work. Can this wait?" "No," I said, too loudly. "Mom, did you or Dad take out any loans in my name?" Silence. "What? Of course not," she said. "What are you talking about?" My credit score dropped almost 200 points overnight. There's a personal loan, a credit card, and a store card all opened in my name, using your address. They're all past due." She exhaled sharply. "Oh, for God's sake." My heart thudded. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said, voice dropping, "it means your aunt has been under a lot of pressure, okay? Your uncle got laid off. The rent went up. Your cousin needed braces. She said it was just temporary." The world went a little fuzzy around the edges. "So you knew?" I asked. My voice sounded thin and far away, like I was hearing myself through a wall. "We didn't know it was that much," she snapped. "She said it was just a credit card. She swore she'd pay it off. And you know how you are with money. You just freak out and make it worse." "How I am with money?" I repeated, as in, responsible. "See," she said, "this is what I mean. You get all high and mighty. You don't understand what it's like for us. You've got your job and your little apartment in Columbus." "My little apartment that I pay for," I cut in, "with my salary, which I earned." "Well, la-di-da," she muttered. I pressed my fingers to my forehead. "Mom, she stole my identity. That's a felony. Do you understand that? She messed up my credit. That affects my ability to rent, to buy a home, to get a car, sometimes even to get certain jobs." "Oh, please," my mom said. "You always make things dramatic. You have a good job. You can call the companies and work something out. Maybe you can consolidate it or something. You're the one with the degree." The words landed like a slap. "I'm not paying this," I said slowly. "I didn't borrow this money." "You're not listening," she hissed. I could hear phones ringing in the background at the dentist office, the clatter of keyboards. "We are family. We do not drag each other to court. We do not call the police. We keep things in-house. If you report this, you'll ruin Denise. You'll ruin your uncle. You'll embarrass all of us." "So your solution," I said, "is what? I ruin myself instead?" "You won't be ruined," she said. "You make good money. You can pay it off, and you'll recover. You always land on your feet. She doesn't." There it was, that ugly little belief that had always lived in the background. I was the safety net, the one with the good money, the one who could absorb the damage. My mom lowered her voice. "Just breathe, okay? We'll talk about it this weekend. Come down for Sunday dinner. Your aunt will be here. We'll figure something out." Figure something out. In my family, it usually meant convince Lauren to volunteer as tribute. I hung up without promising anything. The dinner ambush. I spent the rest of the week in a fog. At work, I smiled through meetings and walked new hires through their benefits packages, while my brain replayed my mom's words on a loop. At night, I lay awake imagining worst-case scenarios. Would my landlord refuse to renew my lease because of the credit drop? Would my car insurance go up? Would my company run another background check and see it? Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. My aunt texted me exactly once. "Denise, your mom told me you're upset. We'll talk Sunday. Don't do anything stupid before then. Love you." I stared at "love you" until my eyes blurred. Sunday came whether I wanted it to or not. I drove the hour and a half to Dayton, with my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. The neighborhood looked smaller than it had when I was a kid. Same cracked sidewalks, same faded houses with plastic lawn chairs out front, same old men smoking on porches. My parents' house smelled like it always did. Laundry detergent, fried food, and too much air freshener. When I walked in, everyone was already there. My Aunt Denise at the table, chunky bracelets jangling. My Uncle Mike, staring at the TV like it owed him money. My younger cousins, glued to their phones. My dad in his recliner, arms crossed. My mom in the kitchen, banging pots louder than necessary. I hadn't even taken my coat off before my aunt stood up. "Lore," she said, spreading her arms like she expected a hug. "There she is. Our college girl. I stared at her. Don't call me that. Her smile slipped for half a second before she put it back on. Okay then. Sit. Let's talk like adults. That was rich coming from her. I sat at the end of the table. No one else joined me. They stayed where they were, just close enough to be in it, but far enough to pretend they weren't. My mom sat down across from me, drying her hands on a dish towel. My aunt folded her arms. Your mom tells me you're having a little meltdown over some accounts. Some accounts, I repeated. You committed identity theft. She rolled her eyes. Oh, here we go. I pulled printed copies of my credit reports from my bag and slapped them onto the table. This is a personal loan for $18,500. This is a credit card maxed at $6,200. This is a retail card nearly $2,000 over the limit. All of them opened with my social, my name, and mom and dad's address. My uncle shifted in his chair, but didn't look away from the TV. My aunt leaned over the papers and squinted. They must have made a mistake on the forms. Denise, I said, my voice shaking with rage. The listed employer is your diner. The contact number is your cell. The email is yours with my name slapped on the front. My mom raised her hands like a referee trying to break up a fight. Okay, enough. We're all worked up. Denise, just explain. My aunt huffed. Fine. Look, we had a rough patch, okay? Mike's hours got cut. The landlord raised the rent. The car broke down. I was drowning. I tried applying on my own, but they kept denying me because of my credit. Then I remembered I had your social from when we did your student loans. I figured, your family. You'd help if I asked. This was just skipping a step. I stared at her. Skipping a step is asking. This is stealing. It was always the plan to pay it back, she snapped. You act like I'm some stranger off the street. I'm your aunt. I changed your diapers. I babysat you. I helped your mom when your dad was on the road. And I helped all of you by working my ass off for years. I shot back. That doesn't give you the right to sign my name on debt I never agreed to. My dad finally spoke, his voice slow and heavy. You're making this sound worse than it is, Lauren. It's family. Denise just needed a little help. If you start calling the cops on each other, what do we have left? What do we have left now? I asked. You all knew and didn't tell me until my credit tanked. My mom slammed her hand on the table. We didn't know it was that much. She said it was under control. She said she was paying it. The only reason you found out is because she hit a rough patch the last few months. So the plan was to keep me in the dark forever, as long as she managed to keep up the minimums, I asked. That's your defense? My aunt crossed her arms, chin jutting out. You don't get it. You don't have kids. You don't know what it's like to be desperate. You're sitting up there in Columbus with your salary and your benefits and your little cat, acting like you're better than us. That's not what I'm doing, I said. I'm saying you committed a crime. Against me. Crime, she scoffed. You think the cops care about some family loan. They're busy with real criminals. Actually, yes, I said. Identity theft is a big deal. I could file a police report. I could file with the FTC. I could dispute all of this as fraud and get it removed. All eyes snapped to me. You wouldn't? My mom whispered. If I don't, I said, my credit is wrecked for years. I didn't do this. I'm not carrying it. The room crackled with tension. My aunt's face hardened. So what? You're going to send me to jail. I don't control what happens after I tell the truth. I said, that's on you. My mom's voice went cold. If you go through with this, Lauren, you will tear this family apart. People in church will hear. Neighbors will talk. You think you can just wash your hands and go back to your little life while we're left with the embarrassment? There it was. Not concern about my future. Not guilt about what they'd allowed, just fear of gossip. I didn't tear this family apart, I said quietly. You did when you decided my name was a tool you could use whenever you wanted. My aunt shook her head. You're being dramatic. You're the one with the education. You're the one banks like. You can fix this easier than I can. Just call them, work out a payment plan, and I'll pay you back once we get back on our feet. I laughed. It sounded hollow and harsh in my own ears. You expect me to believe that? I asked. You've had my name for a year. You never told me. You let accounts go 90 days past due. You only want my help now that the game is up. My dad rubbed his temples. Enough. Here's what's going to happen. Lauren, you're going to calm down. Denise, you're going to apologize. Then Lauren, you'll call these companies, say there was a misunderstanding, and set up some kind of consolidation. We'll all chip in. The way he said, we'll all chip in, made it clear who he thought would actually pay. I stood up. No, I said. Here's what's actually going to happen. I'm going to go home. I'm going to put fraud alerts on my credit. I'm going to file reports. And I'm going to do everything in my power to get this off my name. My mom's face went white. You wouldn't do that to us. To you? I repeated. Or to her? To this family, she said. I grabbed my bag. This family already did it to me. Sex. Choosing myself, for once. I cried the entire drive back to Columbus. Not pretty, movie-style tears. Ugly, snotty sobbing that left my eyes swollen and my head throbbing. I had to pull into a gas station halfway there and sit in the parking lot with my forehead pressed to the steering wheel until I could breathe again. The grief was heavy, but underneath it was something sharper. Anger. Not just at my aunt, but at the whole system my family had built around me without asking. The unspoken expectation that I would always be the one to sacrifice. That because I'd made it out, it was my job to send the elevator back down, even if it crushed me on the way. By the time I got home, the tears had dried. I opened my laptop, pulled up the FTC's identity theft website, and started reading. There it was in black and white. If someone uses your name or personal information to open accounts, that is identity theft. You have the right to dispute those accounts. For the first time in days, I felt something like solid ground beneath my feet. I created an identity theft report through the FTC, listing every fraudulent account. I downloaded the pre-written letters they provide. Then I called each credit bureau, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, and placed fraud alerts on my file. Have you filed a police report? The woman at Experian asked. Not yet, I said. It will help your case, she said gently, especially with lenders. The idea of walking into a police station and telling them my own aunt had done this made my stomach twist. My phone buzzed, a group text from my mom. Mom, we talked after you left. Everyone agrees you're overreacting. You will not call the police. Think about what that would do to your cousins. Mom, call me back when you've calmed down. Then my aunt, Denise, don't you dare drag cops into this. You think your fancy HR job will protect you when people find out you put your own family in jail? You'll look heartless. I stared at the messages, then I turned my phone off. The next morning, I walked into the Columbus Police Department with a folder full of documents, credit reports, emails, notes from the loan accounts showing the diner's number, and my aunt's email as the contact info. The officer at the front desk was middle-aged, tired-looking, with a coffee stain on his uniform shirt. He listened as I explained, then nodded. This happens more than people realize, he said. Family, roommates, exes. We'll take your report. I can't promise what will come of it, but it will give you more leverage with the creditors. He asked if I was afraid for my safety. No, I said, then paused. Not physically, just emotionally, I guess. He gave me a small, sympathetic smile. Sometimes, protecting yourself means people get mad. That doesn't mean you're wrong. I walked out with a case number and a copy of the report. I texted it to myself, then emailed it to my personal Gmail and my work email, just in case. Then I started making the really hard calls. Shevin. The phone marathon. If you've never spent an entire day on hold with banks and credit card companies while trying not to cry, I don't recommend it. I sat at my dining table with a legal pad and a giant tumbler of iced coffee, dialing one 1-800 number after another. Each company wanted the same things: my identity theft report, my police report, proof of my real address, and a written statement that I had never authorized these accounts. Some reps were robotic and cold. Ma'am, this will take several billing cycles to investigate. There's no guarantee. I understand, I'd say. Please note that I did not authorize these charges or this account, and that the contact information on file is not mine. Other reps were surprisingly kind. Oh my God, I'm so sorry this happened to you, one woman at Riverline Credit said. I'm flagging this as high priority. Once we get your documents, we'll freeze the account and start the fraud review. You shouldn't be responsible for this. I emailed scanned copies of everything to every lender. I mailed certified letters to their fraud departments. I updated my password manager, changed every login I could think of, and set up two-factor authentication on everything from my bank account to Netflix. I also called my landlord. Hey, Lauren, what's up? He asked. Everything okay at the place? Yeah, I said. I just wanted to give you a heads up. My credit score might look weird if you run a check in the next few months. Someone opened accounts in my name. I filed fraud reports and police reports, but it might take a while to clean up. He was quiet for a second. Is your rent current? He asked. Yes, I said. Always. Then I'm not worried, he said. You've been a perfect tenant. If anyone asks, I'll say that. I hadn't realized how tightly I'd been clenching my jaw until I felt it loosen. One by one, I took back control of my life on paper. It was exhausting and tedious and deeply unfair, but every time I felt tempted to just give in and pay it, I thought about my aunt's text calling me heartless. Heartless, because I didn't want to subsidize her bad decisions. If that was the definition, maybe I could live with it. Fate. The family backlash. My phone stayed off the first 2 days. When I finally turned it back on, it erupted. Texts, missed calls, voicemails, even Facebook messages from relatives I hadn't seen since middle school. My mom's voice filled my voicemail box, swinging between guilt and rage. How could you do this? Do you know what you've started? Your aunt is hysterical. Pastor Jim is going to hear about this. This is not how we raised you. My aunt's messages were more straightforward. You selfish little bitch. I hope you're happy when they haul me away. You never would have had that precious credit score without this family. My cousins chimed in too. Thanks a lot, cuz. Mom's a wreck. You always thought you were better than us. Enjoy your perfect little life while ours falls apart. I read all of them once. Then I changed my number. At work, I told my manager, Jenna, a version of what was going on. I didn't go into the family drama, just the facts. Someone used my information. I was dealing with banks and cops. I might need to step away for some calls. She listened carefully, her brow furrowing. That's a lot, she said. Take whatever time you need. If anyone from our background check service reaches out, we'll vouch for you. You're one of our strongest employees. I nearly cried right there in her office, not because she said anything wild or heroic, but because she believed me without making me feel like I had to beg. At home, the silence was thick but peaceful. No buzzing phone, no guilt trips, No whiplash mood swings from relatives who thought they owned pieces of me. I filled the quiet with things that reminded me of who I was outside of my family's expectations. I started going back to the gym. I picked up my old hobby of watercolor painting on Sunday afternoons. I met coworkers for happy hour instead of driving to Dayton to play therapist and financial advisor. And every few days, I checked my email for updates from the lenders and credit bureaus. Slowly, things started to shift. Dear Ms. Parker, after reviewing your documentation, we have determined that the Capital Way personal loan account was opened fraudulently. You will not be held responsible for this debt. The account has been closed and removed from your credit report. Sincerely, Fraud Investigations Department. I stared at the email for a long time, then forwarded it to myself again, just to be sure it was real. A week later, a similar letter arrived from Riverline, then from ShopSmart. On my Experian app, the red exclamation marks started disappearing. The balances for those accounts dropped to 0. A little note popped up next to each one. Consumer disputes this account information. Investigation completed. Consumer is not responsible. My score ticked up slowly. Not all the way back, not yet. But enough to see daylight. What happened to Aunt Denise? I didn't hear anything directly from my aunt for a while after I changed my number. News traveled like it always does in small families, though, through cousins, old neighbors, and the occasional petty Facebook post I saw because someone screenshotted it and sent it to me from a burner account. What I know is this. Once the lenders closed the accounts and classified them as fraud, they started looking at who actually benefited. The checks from the personal loan had been deposited into an account with my aunt's name on it. Security footage from the store card showed her signing receipts. The phone records linked all communication to her number, her email. Whether the DA decided to press charges or not, the debt didn't just vanish into thin air. It moved. From my file to hers. Without my name as a shield, her already fragile credit collapsed completely. The landlord, who'd already been nervous about late rent, finally snapped. They got an eviction notice. Her car, leased under one of those no credit, no problem outfits, got repossessed when she fell too far behind. I heard eventually that she'd filed for bankruptcy. My mom called from a new number one day and left a voicemail that I didn't answer. "I hope you're satisfied," she said. "Your aunt is losing everything. They said the police report you filed is what pushed it over the edge. She can't get approved for any apartments now. Your cousins are living out of boxes. But I'm sure your credit score is doing great, right?" I listened to it once, then I deleted it. Was I satisfied? No. Satisfied would have been a world where none of this happened in the first place. Where my family saw me as a daughter and niece instead of a walking credit line. Where my aunt asked for help instead of stealing my name. But I wasn't responsible for her crisis. She was. The bankruptcy didn't come out of nowhere. It was the accumulation of years of shortcuts, of just this once decisions, of putting appearances above reality. My police report was just the moment the bill came due. X. Building a life that's actually mine. 6 months after the worst of it, my credit was still bruised but recovering. The fraudulent accounts were gone. My score had climbed back into the good range, not quite the pristine number it used to be, but something I could live with. I celebrated by doing something small but huge for me. I applied for a mortgage pre-approval just to see. The loan officer on the phone asked all the usual questions: income, employment history, debts, and then paused. "I see there were some issues on your report last year," he said. "A fraud case?" "Yes," I said. My heart rate picked up. "My aunt opened accounts in my name. I filed fraud reports. The accounts were removed." "I see that," he said, clicking. "You did everything right. Your score would actually be a bit higher if that hadn't happened, but even with that, you're in a solid range. We can work with this. I exhaled slowly. I didn't end up buying right away. I'm still in my little Columbus apartment with Biscuit and my secondhand furniture and my watercolor paintings drying on the kitchen counter. But the point is, it's my life, my name on the lease, my paychecks, my bills, my decisions. Not a single account hiding somewhere with my signature forged at the bottom. Holidays look different now. I don't go to Dayton for every birthday and barbecue anymore. I skipped Thanksgiving entirely that first year and took myself on a solo trip to Asheville instead. I stayed in a cheap Airbnb, hiked, drank overpriced lattes, and read books by the fireplace while it rained. My mom texted me once that week to say Pastor Jim had asked where I was. I texted back, "Out of town. Happy Thanksgiving." She didn't reply. Some extended relatives quietly reached out over time. An older cousin who sent a DM saying, "I heard what happened. If it were me, I would have done the same thing." An aunt on my dad's side who mailed me a Christmas card with a note, "Proud of you for standing up for yourself." I cried when I opened that one. Not because I needed validation to know I'd done the right thing, but because for the first time, someone in my family saw my decision as strength instead of betrayal. End. Why I'm telling this story. If you've made it this far, you might be wondering why I'm airing all this out to the internet. It's not because I want pity or revenge or a flood of "you go girl" comments, although I won't pretend those don't feel nice when you've been called selfish by your own mother. I'm telling this because I know there is at least one woman out there scrolling on her phone right now whose stomach dropped the same way mine did when that credit alert popped up. Maybe it wasn't your aunt. Maybe it was your mom, or your brother, or your boyfriend, or your ex-husband you thought you could still trust. Maybe you're staring at accounts you didn't open, balances you didn't run up, late payments you didn't make, and everyone around you is saying the same things mine did. Don't make it a big deal. It's just family. You make more money. You can handle it. Think about our reputation. Be grateful you're in a position to help. Here's what I want you to hear, clear as day. You are not obligated to destroy yourself to protect other people's bad choices. Having a degree, a good job, or a halfway decent credit score does not make you a human ATM or a crash pad for everyone else's crises. Being the responsible one does not mean your boundaries vanish. Yes, reporting fraud when the fraudster is your own blood is brutal. Yes, people will call you ungrateful, heartless, cold. Yes, you will lie awake at night, wondering if you could have found some magical third option where nobody got hurt, and the debt evaporated, and your family stayed intact. But here's what I learned. When someone uses your name without your consent, literally or metaphorically, they've already started breaking the relationship. You choosing to protect yourself isn't what destroys it. It's just what pulls the curtain back. Utintveen? The cost of keeping the peace. Sometimes I play the what if game with myself. What if I had done what my parents wanted? What if I had called the banks, pretended it was a misunderstanding, and rolled all that debt into some giant consolidation under my name? What if I'd spent the next 5-10 years funneling hundreds of dollars a month into a hole I didn't dig, all to keep the family peace? My aunt would probably still be living in the same place, still juggling bills, still telling herself the next year would be different. My uncle would still be blaming the economy. My cousins would still be learning that if you mess up badly enough, someone else will bail you out. My parents would still see my bank account as a community resource. And me? I'd be stuck. Stuck renting forever because my debt-to-income ratio would be trashed. Stuck saying no to trips or classes or things that bring me joy because my money would be spoken for before it ever hit my account. Stuck knowing, deep down, that the people I loved had shown me they valued my credit score more than my autonomy. On the outside, we'd look like a tight-knit family. On the inside, I'd be rotting. There's a name for that kind of peace. It's called sacrifice. And the person on the altar is almost always the one who looks like they can handle it. When I chose not to pay, when I chose to file fraud, when I chose to let the legal system do what it was designed to do, I wasn't just protecting my credit. I was refusing to be the altar anymore. Ain. A different kind of family. These days, when people ask me about my family, I pick my words carefully. I don't lie, but I also don't give everyone full access to my pain. I'm not very close with them, I say. We had some issues with boundaries and money. I had to step back. It's amazing how many women nod, like they know exactly what I mean, without me saying another word. I've been building a different kind of family, slowly. The coworker who brings me homemade soup when I'm sick. The neighbor who feeds biscuit when I visit friends out of town. The book club girls who cheer when I get a bonus at work and never once joke about borrowing it. The therapist I finally started seeing, who looked me in the eye and said, "You were not wrong to protect yourself," and then had me say it back to her until I believed it. I still miss some things. I miss my grandma's mashed potatoes. I miss the chaos of Christmas morning with too many people squished into one living room. I miss the version of my aunt who used to braid my hair and tell me I was destined for more. But I don't miss being scared every time my phone buzzed. I don't miss the weight of knowing my name was being used like a credit card for someone else's life. And I don't miss the constant, gnawing guilt of never being able to give enough to make up for circumstances I didn't create. The question I still ask myself. Sometimes, late at night, when the apartment is quiet and biscuit is a warm lump at my feet, a question sneaks in. Could I have done something different? Could I have paid just a little? Could I have drawn some line that wasn't quite as harsh? Could I have found some creative solution like a TV movie where we all cry and hug in the end, and somehow the debt disappears and nobody has to go bankrupt? Maybe. Maybe if we were different people. Maybe if my aunt had fallen at my feet sobbing, admitting everything, taking responsibility, begging for forgiveness without trying to manipulate me. Maybe if my parents' first reaction had been, "We're so sorry this happened to you. We'll stand by whatever you decide," instead of, "Don't embarrass us." But we were who we were. I was the girl they raised to be responsible, to follow the rules, to believe in doing things the right way even when it was hard. They just didn't expect me to apply those values to them. So I hold the question gently and let it go. I look around at my life, the bills in my own name, the growing savings account, the trip I'm planning to Portland this fall, the way my chest doesn't tighten anymore when I check my credit score, and I ask a different question. What will it cost me if I go back? I know the answer. Everything I've rebuilt. 16. Your turn. If you're listening to this and feeling that familiar tug, that mix of duty and dread that comes with being the strong one, the smart one, the one who got out, I want to leave you with this. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to draw a line, even if the person on the other side shares your DNA. You are allowed to protect your credit, your future, your mental health, your peace, even if it means being the villain in someone else's story for a while. They might never forgive you. They might tell everyone you ruined their life. They might sit around kitchen tables in church basements and cookouts and say, "Lauren thought she was better than us," or whatever your name is, as if that's the worst insult they can come up with. Let them. While they're busy talking about who you weren't willing to be for them, you'll be busy building a life you actually chose. In the end, that's what I did. I chose to stop being the family safety net and started being a person with boundaries. My aunt's bankruptcy is the consequence of her choices. My clean credit is the consequence of mine. So I'll leave you with the same question I ask myself and the one I wish someone had asked me sooner. If your family had to stand on their own 2 feet tomorrow, without your money, your credit, your constant rescuing, would that really be the worst thing that ever happened to them? Or might it finally be the thing that forces them to grow up?